Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Cellar Talks, and today we're in season 5 episode 6, so the final episode of season 5, and we're going to Italy, and our guest today is Costaripa, the winery that is expertise in has expertise in rosé producing. So we're gonna see if we can get our guest in the show. So Nicole, I know she's on the road, so let's see if she can join us. Let's see if we can get the connection started here. Yes, hello Nicole.
Hi.
How are you doing? You're in the sun, so that's good,
Well,
right?
thank you. And you? Yes, I know, finally. Actually, we were in Munich for Gambero Rosso, presenting the wines, and we had yesterday a full day of sun, amazing. Today, the rain. So I'm actually.
Let's see if we can get the connection back, because I know she's traveling, so we might experience some hiccups, but let's wait a minute. I think you're back. Yes? Yeah, there we go. You were saying you were
Yeah,
moving from
yeah, I'm
Munich
back.
to Düsseldorf
Yeah.
now, huh?
Yes. I'm following the Gambero Rosso, but also going to Pro Wine, which is one of the biggest wine
Yeah.
fair in Europe. Because I'm
Of
Italian,
course,
I would say
I
after
wanted to
Vinitaly.
ask you how can you put that on the first
But
place when there's also Vinitaly, but it's important. I mean, not just for German market, but internationally, Pro Wine. It's also a big show for wine.
yeah, I think for Italian wineries,
Yeah,
in Italy would still be the main event, mostly because the importers, they usually have the tendency on focusing on certain
yeah,
markets and certain countries. So most of the importers, they are focused on the Italian portfolio, and then they have some extra. So most of our importers, they do come to
yeah.
Italy because in one fair they can just meet everyone. But
It's more
Pro Wine,
global.
I mean, it's very interesting. Give it a chance. Yeah, you have wineries from all over the world. So also for us producer, it's very interesting because it will give you the chance to also like go and taste and talk, and
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you're
it's
at the
nice
different
to see
events.
what's
So
happening
the
around
one
the
you
world.
use for certain reasons, and other ones are also important for different markets, or like different ways to put the brand into the
Yeah,
market. Well, let's talk a little bit more about it later. For the people that are watching today, we're also drinking a wine. I'm not sure about you, because you're in the car. I'm just going to keep on talking, because if people don't see you, you will probably come back. But we're drinking one of the rosé wines from Costaripa today, Rosa Mara. And let's
yes.
talk a little bit more about that later.
So our,
But first of
yeah,
all,
it's our most important wine, really. So I was very excited when
yeah, I
you
mean,
gave me this
actually, it's the
opportunity.
first one that I tried from you guys, and it made quite an impression. So it was easy to agree on tasting this one. But let's start with the introduction from your side. So maybe a little bit about yourself, and then we will go talk about the winery and about what makes rosé so special. Because if we talk with
Sure.
you, it's always about rosé. It's not a color, not just a color.
Yes, exactly. For me, it's like seems a very simple phrase by saying that rosé should not be a color, just a mere color, but be seen as a wine. And especially a wine that is not done by marketing, but done by its culture and identity. And in these few words, I think it explained well our philosophy and point of view on this category. And there is so much thing to say and share because it's still not well known. So I'm the fourth generation of Costaripa, which I consider myself the lucky
Yeah.
one because usually it's the third one that destroy the wineries and the company. So we managed to actually skip that part. And we are really trying to work and embrace and redesign the view on Jose. We are on the
Hmm.
west shore of Lake Garda in Lombardy, And our land, which is called Valtenesi, our appellation is called Valtenesi, has been defined as perfect for the production of rosé wine since the end of the 1800s. So the idea behind this is there is a
Yeah.
truffle is from Alba, Parma ham is from Parma, and the best pizza is from Naples. There must be a reason why. There must be some intangible variables
It's
that make
synonymous.
these places unique and perfect for a certain product. As you have Barolo, Chianti, and Bulgari, and everything for wines as well. In Rosé, there is still not a lot of knowledge, but on the Lake of Garda, we are the northern point in Europe where you have lemon trees, when you have indigenous cappers, where you produce olive oil, for instance. So let's say that we are meant for rosé wine, and that's why I like to fight for this. Before coming back home and work for my father, with my father in our family business, I worked in Champagne for 2 years, and there I really discovered and understand and embrace the meaning of personality and culture, like really embracing. Your production and your
Yeah,
identity
because
as a
it's very,
terroir,
it's not,
as an
it's not made
appellation.
as a brand, but it is a
Yes,
brand,
I'm
champagne.
sure.
I mean, everybody in the world knows what you're talking about when you talk about champagne.
Yeah, yeah. So I liked it to work in Champagne, I have to say. I was very, very lucky. Um, but then when you come back home, you have a different challenge. I mean, selling rosé was great, but trust me, it started rebuilding from zero and doing this cultural revolution on an identity, on a project that no one really take care of for many, many years
Yeah.
has
The
a
challenge,
different
the challenge is,
taste,
the
let's
challenge is
say.
huge. Although
So
the product
I'm
might be
very, very
great, it's
happy.
still the big challenge there.
Yeah, it's still a big challenge. What I say is usually, Gambero Rosso is the most important wine guide in Italy, especially with the Trebbieri. They had the best Italian rosé wine done
So before
only in
2019, there
2019.
was no mentioning of rosé in
So,
particular.
yeah, no, there was not an award for that. So that's for us, it's extremely important because it's like being finally
Yeah.
recognized as a
Yeah,
category,
it's not
as a
something in
wine.
between white and red.
And
It's
that's what I'm
really
saying. We are not a
white,
color.
rosé, red. This is what it is. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's something that it has to come to mind sometimes. So it doesn't usually come that intuitive when you go out, for instance, and ask, what do you have by the glass? It's usually like, would you mean like red, wine, or sparkling? Like, hey, and rosé?
Yeah.
So it's getting there. The French are teaching us with this, with the Côte de Provence. So we're working on it. And actually, a big news that maybe you haven't heard yet. Valtenesi, our affiliation, is going to be working with the Côte de
So you're
Provence
gonna
for
work,
the
you're
next
gonna
3
work together on
years.
the world stage for promoting
So
rosé or creating a different image or brand for rosé, more or less.
yeah, yeah, Valtenesi and Côte de Provence working together in Europe in order to redefine the idea of rosé by
I think it's a
viticulture,
great
by
step because
identity. So
what,
it's
there's
a big
people that like
responsibility.
rosé from France or from Italy. So you can never say it's just one region that needs to pull this off. You need to work together, like you said, and have barriers, break down the barriers between the
Yeah.
countries as well.
And that's why I usually call it a cultural revolution. Because it's in here sometimes the bias that we have, the limits that we put on rosé wine. They are sometimes just a word of mouth that you heard from someone, and like a lot of the young, especially, they don't drink rosé
Yeah.
wine not because they don't like it; it's just they don't know about it. So that's why it's a matter of culture. Culture for me is a very important world that
That's
should
an
be shared more
interesting
often.
story. That I did an interview a
So
few months ago with winery César Principe from Cigales in Spain, and Cigales region is also known for rosé wines in Spain. But all the Spanish people, if they talk about rosé, they talk about cigales. But and I asked them, how did it come that you guys are now so famous for producing rosé wine? So something must have happened, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And well, he told me it was actually more a matter of coincidence of some people that traded the wines. And then at some point in Madrid, the word came out that Cigales had the best rosé wines. From there on, it was always Cigales. So sometimes it's a lucky thing. With your case, it's also something changed back in time when Valtenesi has been named as appellation and also dedicated to rosé. So maybe you can tell a little bit more about how that happened.
Yeah, basically Valtenesi, which is a very small part of the Lake of Garda, going from Desenzano to Solò, so it's a very small shore, has been defined in 1896 from Senatore Molmenti, which was a Venetian senator. They got very lucky because he married a noble woman from the Lake of Garda, and she brought in out 15 hectares. But it was in the mid of the 1800s, so the Philosera was there. So he was forced to redesign his hectares. And just out of curiosity, Domenot, which is one of the most important wineries for the Provence, was actually founded in the same year, 1896. So this Venetian senator asked two French winemakers to come on the Lake of Garda in order to see and understand the common points and how to redesign these 15 hectares. And they actually found a lot of common points with the Côte de Provence because of the climate, Mediterranean climate. We have 64 different kind of terroirs because Lake of Garda has a glacier origin. So when it obviously melted, it brought down a lot of different kind of terroirs, mostly clay and gravelly, especially in the south. And then we have our indigenous grape, which is called Tropello Gentile, which already from the name is gentle. So the profile of this grape is really with a very light color, more on elegance. Even the tannins, they're more velvety and silky, and that you can definitely see it in Rosamara, for instance. So our appellation, thanks also to some generational change. We were talking recently with other producers how the generational change are extremely important for the wine world. So we started to rebuild and start again in talking about rosé wine and start to reconvert also the idea that rosé was not only done with leftovers grape or should be just only an addition to the line, but restart building our perception of it. Because sometimes it's not seen, but rosé wine is created only with red grapes. In our case, with 4 red grapes. So sometimes a provocative question can be, why do I have to use 4 perfectly healthy red grapes to make a wine that should last 6 months to drink only in summertime, mostly by women and by those women? And that's I think I collected all the cliché on rosé wine
I think you got
in
it.
one
You nailed
sentence,
it with that.
right? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. With 4 red grapes, I can make a great wine. Exactly. So we had also to talk with our old generation, because in order to make a qualitative rosé wine, you have to give up a lot of the yield per kilo. Yeah. So I like to make very simple examples sometimes. But if I harvest 10 kilos of red grapes and I would make a red wine, usually the average yield is 75%. So from 10 kilos, 7.5 liters. Okay? If I use the same 10 kilos in order to produce a rosé wine, a good rosé wine, my yield is about 55%.
So you lose
I make only 5.5 liters. So sometimes I think, and I give up 45% of my work. It's like asking to, that's an example that I say in Italy especially, but it would be like asking and telling to my grandma to throw away half of the lasagna that she got ready for
to make it.
Ah, exactly. You'd never do that. Uh, and so, especially because we talk about the harvest as the main moment for wine, but in order to get
Yeah.
to the harvest, it's a 11 months prior work. And especially back in the time when my grandpa and my great-grandpa were working, we were using horses
No,
not because we
there
wanted
was
to
no option.
alternative sheep, but because we didn't have money for a tractor. Yeah, so you can imagine working in the field with horses from 5 a.m. in the morning all year long, and then arriving in the harvest and
Yeah.
giving up almost half of the
So this was the is
production.
the mindset obviously of the people that were
So it
the
needed
older
more time.
generations.
Exactly. So it was just
Yeah.
easier and just simple for them. Red
Oh,
grapes equal red wine. Higher perceived price range. If you don't sell it in summertime, you can just keep it. It doesn't matter. You can sell it in November. That would be fine. And higher yield per kilo. But that would not be fair towards our identity, towards our terroir, towards our appellation. So we had to go back and restart and rebuild a little bit the knowledge and the
and
cultural
I think
parts
also
also of our history. I
there
have
is
an
more to
old,
it. I
old
mean, you have
mirror.
a business background and a marketing background, so you know that you're competing on a world stage these days. So you're competing with other wines. So even if you decide to go for the red wines because you will get more money from
Yeah,
them, your competition is also very different because there's a lot of competition on that. So how you're going to stand out? Your competition field
sure.
with rosé is very different. Now you have the problem, obviously, that the price level, the price point is lower, but this you can work on. So you're building the brand.
Yes, and especially
Hmm.
on rosé, we have a story to tell. We can, share a lot of different topics in order to
Yeah,
support our choice and our identity. Which, if you would make
yeah,
red
it's true.
wines, you would
And
not be able
I
to do
had
that.
discussion with
You know?
some of the best white winemakers in Spain. They also have challenges because Spanish wine is also not perceived as the wine we ask most money for. It's also becoming better, but they
Yeah.
also had to fight always for the price, the right price level. And the white wines in Spain was even worse because the red wines it was okay. Rioja, they could Tempranillo, they could just
I know.
make some money. But white wines is the same. But if you step away from all of this, you think about the brand and you break it down to the bottom, then you start creating the story around it. Yeah, obviously the wine needs to be excellent, the quality needs to be good, but this is there. It's not. This is not a problem. It's the perception of what is worth. What is worse.
And and we are lucky today because the
Yeah.
communication today is faster. So having a cultural revolution done like 30 years ago with no social media, with no internet, it was so hard because it was
Well,
all a
you're
word of
doing
mouth,
Munich, you're
basically.
doing Amsterdam,
Today, at
Munich, and
least,
Düsseldorf in 1 week now.
exactly. So we are lucky that I can talk to you today, for instance, even if I'm moving and even if I'm traveling. So the potential that we have today is huge
Yeah.
compared to what we had like 20 years ago. And so it makes our job more complicated to handle and to organize, but even more rewarding because we do have the chance to talk
And it
to people
requires different
today.
skills in the winery as well.
And
And I mean, you're a great example because I think
yeah,
you first wanted to go into the fashion world, and then in the end you came back into the wine world where your
yeah,
family was. So, but it's not necessarily that you
yes.
had the idea to go to wine school to study as a winemaker. I mean, your father is a different story, but with you, it all went differently as well.
Yeah, obviously. Yes, but the fact I wanted to try in the fashion industry because I liked the idea. But then I realized that I grew up with different values. I like,
Yeah.
the power of a handshake and be trustworthy, that your word has a meaning. And I found it hard in the fashion
Yeah,
industry to same,
the
find the
honesty as
same
well, and the
values.
hard work and the honesty
When,
that you get from receiving
yeah,
gratitude, and yeah, yeah, I understand what you mean.
and so going back to the roots where everything started. And even in Champagne, I worked for Champagne Philippona, which is still like a small size champagne house, Maison Champagne. So I had the chance to work with Monsieur Philippona. I had the chance to understand his view, his far-sighted on the matter of the company. And I remember I was doing the visit by saying, like, we have this, we do this. So I felt really part of the philosophy and the history and on the meaning of that. And this is what I also brought home. So my father always said it, if you love something, you will definitely defend
and you will be good
at,
and you will be good at this as well, because if
and
you
I
have
love my
passion, then
winery.
automatically the results always come. Yeah, it's not overnight.
Yes, it will take time. I mean, no, it's not overnight. But if I can only share this one seed of curiosity on rosé wine,
I think you're
that
one
I
of the
want
best,
for
not just for Costaripa and also not for Valtenesi, but you're one of the best rosé ambassadors that I know, at least. So I know that you're doing good work for a lot of wineries that work hard to
Thank you.
sell rosé for a good price. So and they
Yes,
also make great wine. So that's I think it's admirable that you look further than just your own company,
I love.
because you could easily say I focus on Costaripa and that's it, but you
Yes,
know it's not going to be enough.
no. And that's I think that's what I learned a lot in France as well, because they do work together.
No.
Champagne is not Dom Perignon, you know. If I also like to make this fun example, but if I would have a huge, humongous bank account, and if I can actually buy a label, a brand, between Dom Perignon and Champagne, I would buy Champagne, not Dom Perignon. Because I can put the word Champagne on everything, and it will have an increase in value. But Dom Perignon,
also not everybody wants
everyone
to be
knows about it.
with it, maybe.
Not, yeah. I give you just a very fun example. My dog's name, his name is Krug. Okay? And I think that everyone knows Krug. You know, it's for me, it's one of my favorite champagne. But I realize that when I talk to people and I say, yes, my dog's name is Krug, they all look at me like what? Like Kruger? I'm like, no, Kruger is not the story. So sometimes we give for granted that people knows about something. But champagne, it's champagne. Everyone knows. So that's the power of a brand and the power of a community, the power of an application that work together to have a meaning in the world, to be put on a map. So for me, with Valtenesi, I work with Valtenesi. I work within the consortium in order to share ideas, to share vision, because we are tiny, we are small, and I think we have to put our energy together, but also our know-how, also our experience.
It's also not easy, even if
on
you're
the
a
service
successful
of the
winery.
population.
Yeah, you already mentioned these days communications is very different, and you have a lot of opportunity, but it also costs money, and you need to get discipline into your company. So marketing discipline is not for every winery. Not everybody has a person in charge for marketing or knows anything about marketing. So also in Spain, I learned our associations like Grandes Pagos, España. They all work together on trade shows and everything, because they know if they have to go alone, first of all, they don't know how to organize it. They have nobody that knows this. Second of all, it's cost too much for them if they do it all one by one. And the brand is bigger if you work together.
And especially, for instance, that's what I've seen also for the Gambero Rosso in Munich, but also we did different fairs. Can you imagine when you will come to the Consorzio Valtenesi and you will see 10 wineries, they are presenting rosé wines. That will give a clear message of who we are, just than seeing only Costaripa, which I'm happy, but as an impact, as an idea, as a message, if we have 10, 15, 20 wineries that work together under the same appellation of Valtenesi, that can actually share the same vision, and we do have different interpretation of our land. Our wines are different, but we have the same profile. We are coherent with our land. That's why we were able to work with the Côte de Provence. We've been working with them for 5 years prior, because we were sending all our wines from the appellation to their center of research in order for them to analyze them, doing panel of tasting, and actually understanding and helping us to understand where we are heading.
With one winery.
To be coherent with our terroir. Exactly. But that really helped us. So they gave us a word that they never used for wine. Perfectly.
Let's see if we can get the connection back. Just give it a minute. In the meanwhile, I'm just gonna take the bottle again, because we're gonna taste in a minute. There we go.
Yeah.
There you are. You back?
I already spoiled it a little bit then.
Oh, we didn't hear it because the connection broke up, so I didn't hear anything. Okay, so let's talk a little bit before we go and talk about the wine, because obviously we're going to talk about Rosamara, one of the key wines that you already mentioned before in the beginning. What is so special about the wine, and we're going to taste it. But also maybe to mention a few words about your father, because you're working together with him, and I think you're very complementary as a team. Because he is a very good, but also a very focused winemaker, and you're also more on the business side, maybe. So maybe talk a little bit how, what his role is in the company and how you work together also.
Yeah. Well, let's say that I'm a daughter of a very important father, because my dad, I call dad, Matti Vezzola, which is a 5-time best Italian winemakers, 4 times in Italy and 1 year recognized by Germany. So we do have a little bit of
yeah, I think. Sorry, we lost you for a second. You were saying he was 5-time best winemaker of Italy.
Okay. Yeah, and then he's also he's been the winemaker of Bella Vista for 40 years. So he finished in this January. So I was able to get my dad all by myself now in Costaripa. And so obviously on this history, he managed to build a lot of credibility, which that really helped us also in our aim. Because if Mattia decides to have rosé wines and to produce and focus on rosé wines, he has a say. It's not something that he randomly decides. And that's obviously very important. My father studies every night. He wants to be up to date with everything that is happening, acknowledging vision. He talks to different other producers, also in Provence and in Champagne. So that's extremely important for us, and something that he always.
Sorry, you mentioned that you worked for a long time with Bella Vista for Franciacorta. So what happened there, and what he was a big part and contributing a big part of that, is that Bella Vista put Franciacorta into the next level, I would say, and he played a very important role in that. So now he's actually doing the same for rosé wines and Costaripa and also Valtenesi, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, that's what we said when I decided to come back home as well. Like that, I will come back home, but we have to learn how to work together, and also I need to, because I always have to learn, and I want to learn from him. So we started like 3 days in Bella Vista and 2 days in Costaripa, and then step by step also, because in Bella Vista they were having a generational change. It was about time for my dad to come home and to actually focus his energy and dedication to Costaripa food. And this happened from this year, which I'm very, very excited, very, very happy. But
it's nice because I had Bella Vista earlier in this season. I had Bella Vista in the show, so obviously we talked a lot about how important Bella Vista was for Franciacorta and what, let's say, how Franciacorta moved up in the world of sparkling wines. And so the circle is sort of complete now, because I think there were episode 1 or 2, and now you're episode 6, so you're at the end of the season. So the season closes with the same story with Matti Vezzola, and yeah, but it's
We are
what is also
coherent.
one thing that I wanted to ask in this perspective. You're also focusing more on sparkling as well. Is this something that now also came because he had more time in the
Yeah,
winery and all the experiences he had with sparkling in Franciacorta, or?
we actually, the first sparkling that my father made was in '73, so almost 50
So it
years
started
ago,
there, and then he
in
went.
Costaripa. So it started there, very tiny. He was experimenting in the beginning. In '71, he finished school, winemaking, and in '73 he decided to start after.
We're waiting to see if we can get it, get the connection back. Sorry for the breakups, but Nicole is traveling, so sometimes we have a breakup in the connection. And we were talking about Nicole's father, Matti, who is the winemaker at the Bella Vista and the third generation. So let's see if we can get them back in the show, and then we're going to talk about Rosa Mara, which we now finally will be tasting as well. So just 1 second to get them back in the show. Yes, hello. There we are again. That's okay. You're on the road.
Sorry.
And I know Germany has a good network of highways, but the communication they did not figure out yet.
Yeah,
they didn't figure it out yet.
it can be tricky.
But we were talking about sparkling wines after you finished the school and the education for winemaker. One of the first things he did, he was experimenting with sparkling wines.
Exactly, and then from there on, he started, experimenting and trying. Obviously, very small quantity in Valtenesi, and in '79, unofficially started in Bella Vista, and officially in '81. So that's why it's been basically more than 40 years in Bella Vista. And he always kept the production in Costaripa. And a fun fact is that we do produce more rosé sparkling than Blanc de Blanc, which is this is quite unique. Usually in Champagne or in Franciacorta, the production of rosé is between 2 and 10% if you're lucky. We are 55%
how
of
could it be otherwise? How could it be different for you if you're in the rosé region of the world?
Exactly. I think the fact that they recognized the identity, that was very important. So
but
that's
now he
for
came
us
back.
is extremely
I saw that you're putting more
very
emphasis
important to underline.
also on with the marketing and everything, and maybe even the volume. I didn't know if you increased in the years now, but now there is more attention on the marketing, at least
A little bit.
also for the sparkling portfolio.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's getting also in your market.
It took a long time to get here.
For the first time. Very happy. Yes, I'm very excited. Step by step, we also didn't want to do everything like fast, let's say. Our most important market is still Italy. We want to be well presented and well placed in Italy. It's our business card at the end. And then we want to work with positioning and with great partners. And this is definitely
because
one of our
Vinites, who is doing the importing in the Netherlands, they're a big promoter also of you guys. I mean, you are here in the Netherlands 1 or 2 times per year, I think, now with them. Especially after COVID, now it's possible again. So for the people that are watching, Vinites has a big portfolio of resellers, retailers, and restaurants that do the Costaripa wines, and I think also they're putting more and more effort to put it on the menu of the restaurants as well now. And as you mentioned, for you it's also very important because people need to see rosé more on menus in restaurants as well.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the fact that I usually say in order to do this cultural revolution,
Yeah.
we need to have the wine out. You have to have it in your glass and taste. So that's a little bit the only scary part is ordering a rosé wine sometimes. But once you taste it, once you drink it, you'd see that there's nothing to be scared of, let's say. It's not a white and red and shake it. It's not sweet. It's not a strawberry taste. It's a wine first, and rosé, the color, is just a consequence of
Yeah,
our
and of course there is pairings that are work better and pairings that are not that well. But that's with every wine, like you said. It's not like you're gonna take every Sauvignon Blanc and it's always gonna be a match with with every kind of dish. Yeah?
Exactly. But also like as you mentioned before, sometimes you have this perception that rosé is not white and it's not red. And I use the same sentence by saying, let's not see this as a limit, but as an opportunity. Because it's not white and it's not red. You can be paired with everything. You can pair it with meat, you can pair it with sushi, you can pair it with oysters.
I think it's quite versatile. I think it's more versatile than a lot of the white and red wines.
Pizza. Yeah, exactly. Because the beauty of rosé is that it should find a balance, an harmony between the freshness, the lightness, the informality of rosé, but in the same time gives credit to the raw materials, which are red grapes. So you have to have consistency, you have to have consistency and texture.
Yeah, but I think there's
you can definitely match different things.
A lot
I
of
usually
education
say
to be
it's a
done there,
diplomatic
so
wine.
it's good that you're spending a lot of time on that, and like I said, not just on the own brand.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Rosa Mara, because I already have it in the glass and I tried to show to the people what nice color that we have here, but not just the color, also the bottles. I don't know if you had any say in changing these in the last few years with the clear glass.
I
The clear
changed the
glass was
labels
also
in
already there,
2020.
or did you change the?
Yeah, the glass is the same.
Yeah,
We only changed the label, obviously. And one of the big generational change we had with my father is that I didn't want to put the vintage on the label of Rosa Mara.
Yeah,
the
you have to
really look
for it.
In the back. And the reason why
very small here, very small.
Because I'm tired.
But the map is bigger.
Exactly. The back is that's a better, the most informative details to share. But the fact, like, why Rosa Mara should be treated and seen only for the vintage?
Yeah.
And everyone wants the youngest, fresher Rosa Mara. Like, it takes me so much work to do. It's unfair. So until time will not be an additional value to my wine, Rosa Mara.
And for you, to be honest, the quality is so good that even if it's 2 years or 3 years old, it's not gonna affect like some other wines, maybe not some other wineries. The quality is just not good enough to resist 2 years or 3 years. But with this one, is not a problem necessarily.
That's the fact. It depends if you're making a rosé as a color or as a wine. If you make it as a wine, it's made with red grapes. Why should not be able to age? But at least for at least 3 or 4 years. So I don't want to be judged by the vintage, especially in this case.
Yeah.
Because Rosa Mara can definitely age.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes what you don't see, you don't ask. So I just leave it in the back.
Yeah,
that's marketing model.
What can you tell us about? Let's start with the name first, because I already in the introduction mentioned it a little bit, but we didn't touch it now. So where does the name come from?
Actually, it's the name of my mother and my aunt. So Rosalia is my mother's name, and Mara is my aunt. So Rosa Mara. But it also was a way of describing the wine, obviously because it's a rosé. And Mara, there is a game of words. Amara, it's like a bitter, which is describing of the wine because it's not a sweet rosé. Instead, it keeps a very clean mouth, very soft, very bitter, like the almond, for instance. So it was how to describing, let's say, the wine. It's made with the four red grapes that are part of Valtenesi, so Gropello Gentile,
So
Barberini,
let me repeat
Sangiovese, and
because the
Barbera.
connection sometimes is a
And
little
one
bit.
of the most,
This is important.
sorry,
Gropello, Massimino,
Gropello,
Sangiovese, and Barbera. Well, the last two
Sangiovese,
people know.
and
If they
Barbera.
know anything about Italian wine, they know Sangiovese and Barbera. The
Yeah.
first two are original, really.
Yes, there are unique unique varieties that they are common only on the Lake of Garda in the Valtenesi appellation. And so we try to really work with our indigenous grapes. That's extremely important for us. And the majority in Rosamara is Gropello Gentile,
Okay.
which is very similar to Pinot Noir in style. Yeah, so very small raisin, all close to each
but there
other.
are, in the end, there are four
fruit.
varieties, which is, well, some people might say it's a lot, some people say, okay, what's a lot? But, well, there is quite some complexity because of the fact that you use four different varieties. We cannot go about that. We can't deny that, let's put it like that.
Exactly. And the fact is something also very interesting. And when I say that people don't understand, it's like we make Rosamara like a champagne. So we work by blend. So we vinify separately all the different plots, all the different parcels. And 40% of these plots, they stay for 6 months in fermentation and aging in barrels. They are usually already been done and used for 2-3 years before coming to us. So we have barrels of like 30, 40 years old. Okay. And then we blend them together. So my father in February, he has all the little glasses lined up on the table.
Yeah, and I like the pictures. When I see something like this, it's like alchemy.
All the different yeah. It's a very challenging, I have to say, like usually between February and March,
the door and nobody is allowed to come in.
Yes, because he will have to do the blend of Rosamara, but also with all the classical method in March. So a lot of
so it's a bad time to meet your father. If you want to come and visit him, then you should not come around that time.
It's a little bit stress. It's a little bit stress. But the beauty of it is that it works like an orchestra. More instruments you have at your disposal, more complexity, more details you can give to your story, to your sound. And that's the same idea with Rosamara for us. So Rosamara, it's created, especially in the vintage 2021, 22 selections. Yeah,
and we have now
22 different selections blended together.
So this is commercially available through partners from Vinitas, but also internationally. We'll talk a little bit about it later, but you're quite well represented in different countries. So people that are watching are not from the Netherlands. They will probably have no problem to find it. It's widely available. And 2021 is the vintage at hand that is now being sold. I think it's not out that long yet, is it?
Exactly.
On the international market. How long is it out now on the international market? Not so long. February.
It's in February.
Okay.
It's the end of February. February. Yeah. Because by law, we cannot go out before
Valentine's
the 14th of February. So our appellation, in order to guarantee, a little bit of a cliche, but in order to guarantee a certain quality and also a little bit of work in the winery, basically, by law, we can go out only after February, which on a market point of view is tricky because a lot of rosé are already out of the market.
People are stocking already everywhere.
But for us, it's important to maintain. It's important for us to maintain the quality. So after February, basically we're out towards the end of February.
Yeah, but to be honest, if you go to the well-known rosé houses in Provence, for instance, they also sell out, and when they sell out, there is nothing. So people know they have to be on time, and they don't have a second opportunity to restock if they like a certain wine. So they will wait for it. If it's the time, And if it's the quality level, they know, okay.
Yeah,
And now I know if I wanted to use it for the summer and I'm consuming, I don't know, 4 boxes during the summer, I just buy straight away 4. I don't think, okay, I buy 2 now, I buy 2 later because I might not be able to buy 2 more.
exactly. And especially, I think it can also be very interesting to know that it can age, can evolve. I had last year a
Yeah,
Magnum of Rosamara 2020, so the previous vintage, and I pair it with a beef tartare with a
yeah.
sauce of bagos, which is a cheese
So
with
quite heavy.
saffron and peppers. So yeah, but the fact is, like, more if you let a rosé age a little bit, it will start to show off more and more the quality and the
Yeah,
structure and the personality of the red grapes of the raw materials. So it will get a little bit more structure. So it also very with me. And that's something that I always like to do when I have a client at home, to
yeah.
do pairing that I would never do. I had the Molmente, which is another rosé, sorry, a still a rosé wine that is a little bit more aged.
We talk about it in
Exactly
a
that
minute.
one,
I have it.
2017.
Yeah.
You are ready. And we
So
pair
yeah,
it with a
people will
deer.
not imagine this.
Would you ever?
So maybe it's good.
No,
Maybe it's good now. While we're at it, let's talk about this
sorry.
one as well. Today we're gonna drink it. I'm gonna review it later, like the other one. So it will be on the profile. But also this one is very important. And actually, we had a big back and forth with Filites about which one we should drink today, because they were also very much in favor of this one. So what can you tell us about Molmenti and why is it also
Yeah.
special for you in the portfolio?
It's very special for us because if we want to prove that rosé is a wine and not a color, the most important variables in the wine industry that gives
Yeah,
value to
time.
wine is time. The most important labels that you have in your cellars, or when you want to get a very special present to
Yeah.
someone, you will go and find an older vintage. Okay. To rosé wines, time has never been given. Rosé wine, as we were saying before, they always
Yeah, you
ask
drink
to
it in the
stay
same
for
year as you buy
a
it.
year, maybe a year and a half or two. Exactly. So if you want to have this cultural revolution, if you want to talk about rosé as a wine, we had to give it time. And Molmenti is the
So here is the
ambassador of
element.
this
Here is the
philosophy.
element of time already comes
My
into
father
play,
created
and we can
Molmenti.
show it to the people because this is 2017. I don't know if this is the. Yeah, this is the current. This was my
And it's
question.
the
This
current
is the current
vintage.
vintage. So compared to the 2021 that I have here, yeah, we're 4 years
Exactly.
in the waiting for this one. And you see that the color is difficult for the people maybe, but it's a very
Exactly.
different color as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly more orange because it stays 2 years in tonneau, and
Yeah.
basically 2 years and a half
So
in the
you keep it,
bottle before actually
you
going
keep it
out on the
for
market.
3.5 years at the
But the
winery
fact,
every vintage. Okay.
yeah, more, yeah, 4 years, at least 4 years
Yeah, so
prior
it's
to
really
going out
interesting
on
for
the market.
people to try this
But the
one.
fact is,
Also, if they want to be convinced about the potential and the aging potential of rosé wines.
yeah, yeah, because I can be good in doing the blah blah blah
Yeah,
and
it's true.
talking, but
It's
in the
true.
end,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
glass will talk.
So we just do a lineup. We take the
So
Rosa Mara and we take the Monlenti and we take the sparkling rosé, and then you have a not just one rosé wine. You have an empire of rosé wines. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. The fact is that you will have three different rosé wines with their own identity, their own profile,
Yeah.
but
And
they
this
will follow the same
Monumenti is
signature.
made from the
So the
same
signatures
floor,
and
or is it different? Same. Okay.
grapes. No,
Yeah.
same grapes, but different plots. So if in Rosamara you have an
Yeah.
average age of the vines of 25,
Yeah. So all the vines. Yeah.
normalmente it's a 45
Yeah.
years average age of the vine. It's almost a parcellaire because basically we do have in a property where we basically rented for the past 30 years and plus. One of the plot of Volmenti, of this Venetian senator that started the
So
tradition,
you
we
went
worked
back
one of
into the
these
history
plots.
books and
So we
tried
have
to
quite old,
get something from the start.
do you want a small
Now everybody
curiosity
will
that
know.
not a lot of people knows? The first the
Yeah.
first internship of my father was at the winery of
And then
Valtenesi.
later he bought the. Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
buying the. Yeah, you're working the lands. Yeah.
we are working in the lands.
So
Yeah, so
yeah, that's it.
we
Yeah,
were
but it's
destined, I guess.
destiny is one thing, but also keeping your course and staying on the path, and also for a longer time. And yeah, you're
Yeah,
in the winery and the wine family. You're not doing it just for yourself. You're doing it for your next generation and the generation after. So it's difficult to keep on the
obviously.
path.
There is a phrase that my father always says that when he said it in the beginning, I was not understanding it, but more and more I think of it about it, more I understand that in a time where everything changed so fast, the hardest thing is
Yeah.
not keeping up, but stay
Yeah.
still. And it's like, but now what do you mean? We have to keep it up. Like, no.
Sometimes you stop,
The
wait,
hardest part
look.
is actually stay still. And no, you have to be coherent. You have to be there, and you cannot move your profile, your identity, because the market is asking you to. No, we could have sold maybe better
So, but
Rosamara if
then
it
you
was
would be
sweeter.
selling away your soul.
But Rosamara is not meant to be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
who
Yeah,
are we then?
I think it's very much true, and you're guardians
So,
of the winery and of the name and everything. So and yeah, now four generations, but yeah, assuming you will not be the last generation, so it will be continuing after. Yeah.
hopefully. Thank
Yeah,
it's extremely important to be coherent in what you're
I totally
saying
agree.
and what you're doing, and I think my father really had it in mind.
Oh, I think these are. These are
The
wise
first
words,
vintage
so
was in
I totally agree
1991.
on those. So for the people that are watching, if you have any questions, I'll just ask now. They can put them in the chat, and this might be a good moment for me to, because we have about 10 minutes left, to ask you also the question which I popped for you just before the show. Because last week we were in South Africa, and obviously it's a country, a wine country that is a very different history than Italy. And jokingly I said then, okay, we go now next week to Italy. It's the land of 1001 grapes. You can go every corner, you'll find another one. And unfortunately for South Africa, they don't have that. They only have more or less one own variety, is Pinotage, which is a combination of some others. But okay, after now they have also some vineyards that are 100 years or older. So by this time it's becoming more old world, although they'll never be on the level of Italy. But his question was an interesting one, because a lot of people have a certain perception. But the question was, what is your perception about South African wines, and what is the thing that contributed most for that? So what made you think about South African wines the way you think about them right now?
See, like I always like to be honest, so I don't know much about South African wines, but simply because by living in Italy and moving to France, my boyfriend is French. We mostly
You
drink
would
the
almost be
old
cheating if you
world
don't drink Italian
wines.
and French.
Okay, so Italian, French. I, but I am curious. I'm a really curious person, so I like to try. I like to taste South African wines. It's been a name that is coming up more and more and more.
Yep.
Also in pro wine and international fairs, it's getting recognized more and more. At the end, is the seventh country by wine production. So it's not small. It's growing more and more, and I think they are founding their own identity per se. Like in the wine tasting, you can find a profile of South African wines. So it means also that they are redesigning as well, and not maybe redesigning is not the correct word. They are redefining, maybe redefining better their own identity and coherence with the terroir, which is something that for me is extremely important. Otherwise, doing blind tasting would mean nothing. If you have a Pinot Noir that is the same from Uruguay and Chile and South Africa and New Zealand. And I think they are working on that. Instead of following the market, they are trying to actually
I think
create
it's
the market of their
interesting,
wines,
interesting comment
which that is
because
extremely
when we talked
important.
about it, is that they are located in Stellenbosch, and Stellenbosch is, if you talk about wine regions in South Africa, is the I think in terms of the biggest one and the biggest name
The
and the
most
biggest
famous
brand.
one.
If you talk about regions and brands, and
Yeah.
Stellenbosch is like used to be always on the top, but now they've also internally in the internal market become some
Yeah.
more competition from other regions coming in. So they also had to rethink about, okay, we were on this top podium on number one, but now we see other people coming left and right, and how do we keep up with that? And yeah, it's always about not just looking behind, also looking forward. But yeah.
Exactly. And it's more and more important.
Yeah.
There are two ways on making wines. Either you make wine for the
Yeah.
market, or either you make the market on your wines. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Easy money is the first option.
You
You
just
make the
listen to
wine
what the people need, and
for
then
the
you
market
bring them what they want.
and everything.
Yeah.
And then you do it. The problem you have to remember, every 5 years, your palate change, adjust. So you will be the most likely always late. Okay. Just consider that 10 years ago it was big on Gewürztraminer, and now everyone is drinking a rosé.
Yeah.
So what happened in the middle? So I think on the South African wine, something is very important for them now is being coherent with their grapes and with their identity and the connection. But again, we just have to be interpreter of our appellation of our land. So the grapes, they are the result from terroir, microclimate, and the grapes. And they have to translate this connection. If you have it and if you can enhance and give value to it, then you won. It will take you maybe a little bit of time.
Yeah, you need to create a unique
won.
factor as well, and that's what you're saying. If you don't have your own differentiator, you're always following somebody else's beat of the drum, I would say.
That's why I don't like when they say like, "Oh, you want to be like a Provence style rosé." No, I want to be a Valtenesi rosé style. Or when I was working in Champagne, they were saying, "Oh, but
you know,
it's
you know what the thing is, and you know how
that's
it works. For a lot of people that don't have too much knowledge about it in terms of consumers, people just drinking wines, it's easier to understand when you say, okay, we have a Super Tuscan, which is sort of a Bordeaux blend, but an Italian version of the Bordeaux blend. And you're not justifying it at all because it is very different. Okay, there are similarities. But I mean, yeah, there's also a lot of, as much as there are similarities, there's also differences. But it's easier to understand for people if you just refer to something that they know, which is bigger.
And the Franciacorta was always been introduced in foreign market as an Italian champagne. And so that created so much confusion.
Why would you need an Italian champagne?
Okay, they use Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Yeah. And that's also something extremely important to underline for the rosé is that the color is not a meaning of quality. Not because it has a nice light rosé, it means that it's qualitative rosé.
Yeah.
Because the color is very easy to do.
Yeah, it's like a dial, and you can dial the button, and you can do a little bit more.
Is that a color or is that a wine? More press, less press, more maceration. So
it's the easiest part of making the wine.
You can have it easily. But is that a wine first? That's a different story. And especially, you would never ask to a Sangiovese to have the same color of a Cannonau. You would never ask to, I don't know, Merlot to have the same color of a Pinot Noir. Exactly. Why? If you're in Puglia, you have so much different climate, so warmer there. Their grapes are different. The terroir is different. Why do we have to ask to the Puglia to make a wine that it's resemble the Provence or a normal
and I think
rosé?
the only reason why it
Unfair.
happens is because entrepreneurs and companies think they need to follow certain trend because they think this is the only way to survive, more or less. But you're always being lost in line because there's always people doing it better that have the history on it or have the money.
And especially you
Yeah.
will start treating rosé as
No,
a
I think
color.
it's I think it's a nice way to round up the story again because we started with your remark that the rosé is more than just a color, and yeah, and this is what we come back to in the end. It's more important that it's a category, and it's a category that deserves just as much attention as white and red wines, and it's not something that should be too much, let's say, influenced by trends. And I mean that will always happen, and there will always be people now drinking very light rosés, and maybe in 5 years they want to have darker rosés. But I mean that's not necessarily a problem. There's also people that recognize good wine and will always value the wine for the quality and not for the color.
Yeah. And especially as today, concerning the rosé, it's not a matter if they will become big rosé wine.
Yeah.
It's like, where are you gonna be when it's gonna happen? In France, they drink since 2012. So I'm
10
not
years.
talking about yesterday. It's 2012, 10 years. They have been drinking more rosé wine than white wine, and they are our neighbors. In Canada, they drink rosé throughout the full year,
They don't
and
mind
they're
about
minus
sun
20
and warmth.
degrees in wintertime. They don't care. I went and see the enoteque, the wine bar.
Yeah, it's
They have 20
unbelievable.
different rosé. So it's not a matter. It's not a matter if this will happen.
Yeah, and also,
where
I
are
think
you gonna be
if you
when
look
this
back in
will
history,
happen?
there's always moments for regions, and moments for certain styles of wines, and etc. But sometimes there are things that are really difficult to battle, like climate, for instance. You know that there are great white wines in France, but you also know that they have increasingly problems, also in Burgundy, to keep up with the quality that they sort of created the bar that is so high that now they're becoming problems that they cannot influence.
Now the maintaining is very complicated, but that's
It's part of life, and some things you can
that's a hard job to do.
influence, and some
Making
things you
wine,
cannot. But you can make your own identity, and you can stay true to the identity, like you said.
Yeah. My dream would be that next time that you have to choose a rosé wine, you will choose a rosé wine by identity and by terroir. And so, like, it happens to me, like, I have a friend in Tuscany that obviously makes red wine. He's in Bulgaria. And he called me and said, Nicole, I'm really sorry. What happened? I have to also make rosé wine because my importer asked me.
Yeah, why would you do
like
it?
that's not how it works. You should go and because people don't see rosé as identity of wineries, so they don't go and look for wineries that makes rosé wine. Say, you have red grapes.
I need it. I need for one-stop shop. I need everything for one. If you don't make white wines, you plant some whites because I need also whites.
And I'm saying, like, and I'm not talking about
if you're
the
a good
quality
winemaker,
of wines,
you can
because
make
they
it.
are very good wines, rosé wines. Yeah, I mean, I'm not judging and talking on anything of this. I'm just saying that if you would go into a wine list on Italian red, you will go in Piemonte and you will go in Tuscany. If you would do it a wine Italian list, you can go in Friuli. Sparkling, you go in Trento Doc, you will go in Alpalai.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, clear defined, more or less.
And now we are trying to say, if you have to do a rosé, this Italian wine, Valtenesi.
Yeah, so
Or Puglia, for instance, or Cellar
so this is what people need to keep in mind.
The only places. Yeah, yeah. We didn't decide to make rosé. We are forced to make rosé because it's the only way that we can give credit to our land, right?
You had some strict set of rules that brought you into this position, but also over time and by being determined, and not just Costaripa, but also the other wineries, by following this path, you perfectionized more or less this. And so it might start with rules, and I saw the same in Austria after the wine scandal in the 80s, for instance. You saw the same thing. There were more rules. And first of all, nobody liked rules, but then the rules made it easier to follow a certain pattern. And now, when the pattern is there, you start to perfectionizing. So you don't do that in a few years. It's so decades. And at some point, you have something which is a great story. And if the quality is good and the story is interesting, yeah, now we have a good wine.
Yeah.
So,
Why
Nicole,
not?
I want to thank you very much. For the people, the Rosamara, we will do it in the review. I think I already reviewed it, but I will do it again because I like it so much. So I'm just going to put another one on. But for sure, also we're going to do
Very happy.
the Momenty because I think it's a very interesting story, and I also don't want to disappoint Vinites because this was what shows aging, what aging can be for rosé wine. That's a good idea.
Do it with a nice barbecue.
Yeah, I like that. So let's keep
nice
it
barbecue.
And I want to thank you very much for your time. I know you have a busy schedule, and like I said, it's 3 or 4 cities this week, I think already. So I don't know what you're going to do after wine. Maybe you
it's a challenge. Yes.
At home.
London. I finished pro wine on Tuesday, and on Tuesday fly to London.
Very good.
And then after London to Brussels.
Gone, so now at least you can travel again.
Yes.
You
I have to give up now. I'm older now. I forgot about that.
From the last 2 years.
Yes, but I didn't remember I was so old though, because 2 years ago I was traveling so much easier than today, and I'm like, that's complicated. 2 years ago again.
It goes quickly, yeah. So thank you for being in the show, and for the people,
thank you so much.
And read about the reviews, and also the recording will be online. So although we had some issues with the audio and the video, they might sit down and relax a little bit and watch it back. And the recording is going to be okay. And I would like to once again wish you good luck in Düsseldorf with Pro Wine and with Costaripa. And also with rosé wine, I think that's the most important thing. And then the rest will come as well. And give my regards to your father. And
we are definitely going to work on that.
Doing his magic, and when he's doing the alchemy, so I will knock on the door and see if he opens up.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you have to know that if you go, you just have to bring an apple, a green apple, and it will be okay.
Just green apples. Yeah. That's enough.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Green apple. That's the key. Yeah, you always drink. You always drink a green apple prior to tasting.
Costaripa will come with a box of green apples, so you will have enough for the rest of the year.
A green apple.
Thank you, Nicole, and safe trips. And
okay,
we'll
so
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks everybody for watching,
and
this was the last episode of season 5. So we're rounding up here, and then of course we will be back probably after summer with another season and with some new guests, and all the recordings of the show are also on the Instagram page. So if you go to the Dutch Wine Apprentice Instagram, you will also see all the other interviews, and we will put this one online later. So wishing you a good evening, and we'll enjoy this rosé wine, the Rosamara from Costaripa. And would like to thank you again, Nicole, for being guest in our show, and thank you, Vinites, for delivering the wines and making them available in the Netherlands. Have a great evening, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.